Welcome back to the 31305 podcast. We are on episode 18. We're getting close to 5 months in of running this podcast together. As always, my name is Alex. I'm joined by Taylor from the west side, a much less rainy and drier conditions than I'm currently dealing with.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 120 degrees. It's crazy. They had the roof. We were at the Diamondbacks game the last couple days. They had the roof open. It's been like 100 degrees out. Came out of nowhere, but I'd rather have that than rain and no power for the last 4 days.
Yeah, we're in a monsoon season apparently because it is pouring outside that window up there. I lost power 5 minutes ago, so we're going to see how long this podcast goes. Um, Also dealing with weather was in Augusta this past weekend, the Masters. I'm sure I sent you the video of the trees falling and very
Yeah, it
scary
was crazy.
scenes. Like, I'm so glad nobody got hurt. Even Jim Nantz was like, "Oh, watch out," because it just collapsed in like a walkway essentially. Luckily, it didn't hit anyone. Play had to be suspended twice, Friday and Saturday, and now we're getting that weather over here today in South Florida. But yeah, the Masters ended with a collapse from trees and a collapse from Brooks Koepka. I mean, he was leading by three swings at the last day going into round four, and he ended up getting six bogeys on the last round with only three birdies, and he tied for second with Phil. And we have a new Masters champion, Jon Rahm.
Yeah, it was interesting. Brooks Koepka came out. He was like 12 under, I think, in the first 2 days. I don't think it was the first day he was
Mm-hmm.
12 under. The first 2 days he was 12 under. Um, it kind of seemed like he was going to be a shoe in for the Masters to win it, and then Jon Rahm with a great last two rounds. I'm not exactly sure what he shot. I'll be honest. I was kind of busy over Easter weekend. I tried to watch what I could. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to watch Jon Rahm win it. It's the Masters. It's upsetting because I didn't watch it as much as I usually do this year, and I'm kind of mad at myself for it. But with family in town and Easter weekend just didn't line up. But yeah,
Yeah.
congrats to Jon Rahm to for winning the Masters. I don't think he's won it before. Actually, I know he hasn't won
No.
it before, but
No.
um, just yeah, the the whole suspending play and all of that stuff kind of put me off. Like I don't know, it was just a weird Masters this year. Nonetheless, still a great event, but unfortunately, I did not watch much of it.
Yeah. He. I was actually second after the first day to Kepka. He shot a -7 on the first round. Kepka shot a -8. And then he shot a -3 on the second and the fourth round. But actually, after round three, he only shot +1. But I mean, he had 19 birdies and an eagle over the 4 days, which is pretty damn impressive at Augusta, where the cut was a +3.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, he was just pretty much like consistent. So he was just always around the top five since essentially the end of the front nine on the first day. He did win the U.S. Open 2 years ago. That was his other major win.
yeah.
He's coming like third and fourth from the Players, and the Open. But this is the first Masters, so congrats to him. We had Phil Mickelson make a run on the last day. He got eight birdies in round four and only one bogey, and he had -7 on the day, tied for second. I mean, if Jon Rahm ends up collapsing and gets a couple of those birdies to be bogeys, I mean, you're looking at a three-way playoff between him, Mickelson, and Koepka, and that would have been amazing. Um, but so congrats to Jon Rahm for winning. Of course, we were on Tiger Watch the entire time, and he withdrew after the second round. I mean, they showed video of him walking after hitting a
It was
second
bad.
shot in the fairway. This man like needed a cane essentially almost to
Uh,
walk. Like he was leaning on his club to
yeah.
like walk out.
At,
So
at
he
this
withdrew.
point, at this
Hmm.
point, Tiger they need to just let Tiger have a cart. Like I know it's not
Yeah.
like a thing in the PGA Tour, but for a legend like Tiger Woods to be withdrawing in the Masters because he can't walk anymore, like just give this man a cart. I don't know what's next for Tiger. He's probably going to take a lot of time off after this one. I can't
Hmm.
even think of the next event that he's going to play in.
Probably the
Um,
Open,
that's
if I had
that's
to
what I'm
guess.
thinking is the Open,
Yeah.
but I mean, with how he looked after two rounds at Augusta, barely making the cut. Honestly, getting really lucky he made the cut because I think he finished two over, and the
Yeah, he
cut
finished just under. Yeah.
he was like just barely making the cut. He didn't look good. Obviously, we all want Tiger to win another one. I don't think he's ever going to win another major nor another event, more than likely. But um,
Hmm.
gonna be interested to see what's next for Tiger. I don't know if he said anything after the Masters, what his plan was, but you got to think he's gonna take some time off after this one.
Definitely rest. I mean, his right leg's pretty
Yeah,
much bionic at this point. You know, he's had hip issues, knee issues, ankle issues, all on the right leg, essentially. So he needs some recovery and PT, but yeah, I hope he gets to health soon and can compete in the majors. He doesn't have to do every PGA event. He's at that age where he doesn't really need to. It's
Yeah,
just
no.
people want
Like
to see him at the major events.
if he only does the Masters, the majors, like I think that's fine. I'm trying to look at the schedule to see what the next one is.
Yeah,
But I mean, yeah, if it's the Open, the U.S. Open,
the players I think
the
already happened, right?
Players, yes.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, we all want Tiger to do good. I mean, I know I grew up watching Tiger as a kid, so I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure anyone listening to this is probably our age and also either watched Tiger as a kid or who didn't
Knows
watch
of him.
Tiger in golf anyway. So
Yeah,
we'll
either
see.
that or you knew the chase that happened to his ex-wife in Orlando, the car crash. So you
Exactly.
knew
There you
you knew
go.
one of the two things with
You
Tiger.
know Tiger Woods.
Yeah,
But yeah,
but
definitely take some time off, get the leg healed. I do hope they let him use a cart. I think that would be the smartest thing to do.
yeah,
Um, the PGA Championship is in. That's not what I'm talking about. Not the PGA Championship. Why
the
can't I think of
Open,
their name?
the U.S. Open.
No, maybe it is the PGA Championship that I'm thinking of, but I think that's in May. So, um,
Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna be playing. That's in a month.
yeah, I don't know about that either. But the U.S. Open is in June, so that's
Hmm.
probably the next one that I would think that he would go to would be the
Hmm.
U.S. Open. We'll see.
Yeah,
Hope he gets better.
I'm overall like with the Masters. This was the first major tournament that the live golf players could participate in. And I'm glad they're able to play, but I'm even happier that none of them won. Just that way they couldn't do like, see, we don't need to be in the PGA Tour to win a major event. I mean, Koepka and Mickelson did well, but they also have tons of experience already playing on the Masters and like in the major tours.
Hmm.
So for them to have to go from like three, because the live golf isn't 4 rounds, it's 3 rounds. It's like less swings overall they have to do. So for them to have like longevity and play 4 rounds of intense golf, I mean, Phil's done it for his entire career, and Kepka's got a lot of experience as well. But overall, it was a good event. I wish the trees weren't
Yeah,
falling, the sky wasn't falling when the Masters was
yeah,
happening, but it was a good event, and of course, I look forward to it every year.
yeah. I hope he plays in the Ryder Cup too. Like, if that's the only thing he does this year is the Ryder Cup in like September, whatever. That'd be
Yeah.
really cool to see Tiger in the Ryder Cup.
Hmm. We did have another icon play yesterday, and that is LeBron James. He played in basketball. They had the playing games, both of them between the 8 and 9 or 7 and 8 seeds, and the home team in the West won with the Lakers. I mean, both teams between the Lakers and Wolves were trash, especially the last 6 minutes of the game. The Wolves had the game essentially the entire time, and they didn't score for 5 minutes in the fourth, allowing the Lakers to claw back in. And then the Lakers stupidly foul Mike Conley on a three with 1 second left, and he sinks all three free throws, go to overtime. So neither team really showed that impressive, but the Lakers do move on. The Timberwolves will play the winner of the Pelicans and Thunder on Friday in their home stadium.
I mean,
I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
we have to talk about the Rudy Gobert Kyle Anderson fight. Jaden
Yeah,
McDaniels breaking his
breaking his
hand in
hand.
the hallway. Like, what is going on with Minnesota right now? Apparently, Kyle Anderson called Rudy Gobert a bitch. I think on the bench.
He did.
He
He
just
did.
called yeah, he just called him a bitch, and then it wasn't a punch. It was more of a like fuck you, push you away kind of shove. Like, don't call me a bitch. Um,
Hmm.
I do still think the suspension was warranted. Like, that's not something you want on the bench, like last game of the year. Like, that's not a good
Hmm.
look, not good optics. And
No,
you could tell yesterday, no Rudy Gobert, no
Jaden McDaniels.
McDaniels. Yeah, like if they're in the game, I don't know. Maybe they win, maybe they don't. I'm not a huge supporter of Rudy Gobert anyway. I think he's kind of mid. But yeah, the Timberwolves in like the biggest game of their like entire lives, like
Season.
franchise history, the biggest game, and you've got two guys fighting on the on the bench. So
And
I didn't watch the game. I was at the Diamondbacks game,
mhm.
so but yeah, I definitely had to mention Rudy Gobert punching his teammate because that might be the downfall of their season right there.
And apparently he was upset. a little bit because he had been called that, but also because he had been playing hurt the last 4 games of the season with like lower back spasms, like trying to will through it. And he took the suspension in hard. He even told Kyle Anderson on social media and privately that like it's all good, like we're on the same team. But you're right. If they have those players, they probably win that game against the Lakers. And even in the game against the Lakers, Anthony Edwards scored 5 points. I mean, he did not show up at all. It was mainly Mike Conley and Karl Anthony Towns as the entire offense. Like Mike Conley had a like he was back in Memphis for the Minnesota last night. But having Gobert inside, having McDaniels to guard LeBron, also would have made a huge difference. McDaniels will not be back for the playing game on Friday, but Gobert will, and it'll be in Minnesota. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle either Shea or Brandon Ingram in the next game.
Yeah, be interesting. I might take the winner of the 9-10 game over Minnesota. I think they're in a complete collapse right now. Like this is not good optics. They are not on the same page. Like I'm probably taking either OKC or the Pelts to beat Minnesota.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have to talk about the other game, which happened last
Yes,
night.
sir, you
And
do.
it was the Heat against the Hawks. And everyone had the assumption that the Heat were just going to beat Atlanta, go on to play Boston. Even the Celtics fans were trending on Twitter like we were all Atlanta Hawks fans tonight, and we're rooting for them as they try to do the impossible. But they made it look easy. I mean, Atlanta took it to Miami. Miami looked awful all night at home. They got good support from their guards for once. Kyle Lowry and Tyler Hero combined for 59 points, but nobody's really stepped up. Atlanta got 20 offensive rebounds. Not just rebounds, offensive rebounds. They got
21.
20 chances,
21.
21 offensive rebounds. So, I mean, Atlanta gets the dub. They honestly celebrated, and their social media team was. I hate Atlanta. Like, Atlanta and Philly are the two social media teams I hate because whenever they win, even if it's the smallest thing, they just troll the fuck out of whoever they beat. So they said, "Oh wow, it sounds like a Marlins game in here." After the game had ended, and I'm like, "Yeah,"
Yikes!
and I'm
Oh
like, "Because
my
the game is
god!
over. Because the game is over. What do you mean?" They tweeted it after the game had ended, and because yeah, the game is. What do you expect people to be cheering even for the home team after they won already? Like, I didn't understand
Man,
that.
that's
But
tough.
they acted like they won the finals in Miami. So they'll move on to play Boston, and the Heat now have to recoup and play at home against the winner of the Raptors or Bulls on Friday. I mean,
That's a tough game.
it is tough because the Raptors and Bulls have both beaten us this year in Miami.
Yeah,
But
that's tough.
I think the fan in me really wants Miami to win because I'm like, oh, we've beaten the Bucks before when they were 1 seed. We could do it again in the bubble. But I mean, for us to have a chance at a lottery pick because we actually own our first round pick this year, and we could get someone young and cheap that we need at like a power forward position we need. I'm okay for the result either way on Friday, but a very tough loss last night in Miami. A lot of sad fans leaving.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have
I
anything
think it's
else you
gonna.
want to add.
Yeah, I think that they're gonna play the Raptors. I'm taking the Raptors to beat the Bulls. I'm not huge on Chicago, but that's an interesting matchup. The Heat versus Toronto. Like Toronto has too much talent to not make the playoffs. Like Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam. Like that's a
Mm-hmm.
that's a top 6 team. Like they shouldn't have fallen this far. Whether you put it on Nick Nurse, whether you put it on the players
The depth
themselves or
and the
the
rotation,
depth and the
because outside of
rotation,
their top five, they
they
have
don't have
nothing.
anyone. But
Yeah.
like that, those 4 right there are elite. They should be a top 6 team. So I mean, that Miami game, I mean, we'll get to our predictions in a little bit, but right now I think I'm leaning Miami just because it's at home, but
Yeah.
it could really be a toss up for me. I don't know, but yeah, the Hawks just they weren't good all year. They were just kind of middle of the pack. I didn't really see them
Mm-hmm.
beating Miami last night. I don't think anyone did. On ESPN, the predictions were like 17 people took the Heat, and none of them took Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out Trey Young. I know Jimmy Butler was talking not shit, but he said he was guaranteeing a win over Atlanta. And
Yeah.
I don't know what he did yesterday, but obviously not enough to lead him to a win.
Jimmy Butler also said that they were going to come back down 3-2 to the Lakers in the bubble, and then they lost Game 6 like in a blowout.
Yeah,
So
Jimmy
Butler has
he should
unlimited
stop
confidence.
guaranteeing thing. Yeah.
He's got unrivaled confidence, but he needs to stop making predictions, especially about his own team. Yeah, hopefully the Miami can win on Friday. We do have 2 more games going on to play in tonight, and those are the games that we just spoke about. The Pelicans are playing the Thunder in New Orleans. New Orleans hosts a playoff scenario game for the first time since AD was on the roster and they played the Warriors. And then we have the
Jeez.
Raptors. We have the Raptors playing against the Bulls. This game is in Toronto. Um, I honestly see the Thunder winning, and I see the Raptors winning. That's my main preview. I think the Thunder are going to get that experience of next year when they have Holmgren come back, Chet Holmgren come back, and help the guy done. There's a young team that just needs the taste of the playoffs. You can say the same about the Pelicans, but we'll get to them in a minute because of Zion situations. But I think the Thunder are the team that has the most upside, and I think they can use that in this scenario. And New Orleans doesn't have like a crazy home field advantage. And then for the Raptors, I think they do have a crazy home field advantage. And Chicago's been kind of just floating, like just barely better than the Magic, but not good enough to beat any of the top 8 teams. But I think the Raptors will take it home.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take the Raptors too. I think the Bulls are just meh. Zach Levine's good. I mean, that's kind of really all they have is Zach Levine, and they got rid of Laurie Markkinen, and who else is even on that team? Why can I not think of? I know they have another big guy on the team, and I can't think of him. They still have
DeMar
Vucevic, right?
DeRozan,
Oh shit, too. I'm thinking of Demar. Yeah, but
Vucevic, DeMar DeRozan.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think Toronto's too good to lose, and it's in Toronto in the six. I'm gonna take Toronto in a close one. Chicago just hasn't proved to be like good this year, and Toronto is really good at home. They're 27-14, whereas the Bulls are 18-23 on the road. Both teams are about even when it comes to their last 10. They're both 6-4. They're both relatively even in points scored and points against. So I'm just gonna
Mm-hmm.
give it to Toronto based on the home court advantage, and then the other game OKC with New Orleans. I'm actually gonna take OKC. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I know New Orleans is really good at home too. They're also 27-14, and OKC 16-25, which is terrible on the road. Um, but OKC could score. I mean, Shea is. I think he should win Most Improved. Most Improved Player. Like this is a team that we thought was going to be at the bottom of the league with no Chet coming into the year. Like they have
Mm-hmm.
Lou Dort. Like that's their best second
Josh
guy. Like
Giddey.
Josh Giddey has had a great year. I'll give him that. I'm a big fan of Josh Giddey now, Mister Almost Triple Double.
Yeah.
Um, Jalen Williams has kind of come out of nowhere to average 14 points a game in 30 minutes. That's the guy out of Arkansas, I think, right? Jalen Williams.
Yeah. Yeah. He's had a great year.
So they've had a lot of like surprise guys that are contributing really well, and then obviously Shea's gonna go for 32 a game almost. So I'm gonna take the Thunder over the Pelicans. With Zion still sitting out, he says he's healthy enough to play, but that he still doesn't feel like Zion, so he doesn't want to play. Kind of screams selfish player to me. I don't know. It's the playoffs and a really probably your most important game yet. You're physically able to play, but he doesn't want to yet. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of I don't know. I've been low on Zion for a long time. I think he's one of the most overrated players of our generation, and this kind of proves the fact that like he's healthy enough to play, but he just doesn't want to is selfish.
You could say he's a bust. I mean, you
Yeah,
can. It's how good John Morant's been at being number 2. And exactly what you said. This is a situation. He said he's like, it's a lot to come into a playoff environment, like, and returning to the game. And it's like, that's the point. You
that's
are paid.
yeah,
You are playing basketball at the highest level. You are being paid to perform at the highest competition. Why wouldn't that excite you to come back at a home game, do or die? Like, if you lose, you lose, but at least you gave it an effort. So for him not to even want to try it, I don't think it screams selfish. I think it just screams no fire. Like you got to have that like passion for the game and like want to play.
yeah,
And I don't think he has that right now. Like I think he's been hurt so much, it's like dampened his excitement about basketball. And the Pelicans need to figure that out because if he's lost his will and ability to play basketball mentally, like you got to figure out what to do with him in the future. You can't just keep hoping he gives you 30 games in
yeah,
regular season and then an iffy when it comes to playoff times.
yeah. They
But
absolutely I think need to trade him at the end of the year. And if he's saying the pressure is too high, this man was all over every single news outlet since like middle school.
yeah, because of his dunks in
Because
middle
of his
school and high school
dunks,
that he got.
high school he was going crazy. Like Twitter, Instagram, ESPN, quite literally over everything. Was named to be the next LeBron James of the league, like the biggest
Yeah.
prospect since LeBron. So he can't say the pressure is too high because this man has had cameras on him since middle school.
At
Um,
Duke, it was the entire photo
yeah,
booth was around him and RJ Barrett.
yeah. So I think I think they need to move on from Zion. Maybe a fresh start somewhere that isn't New Orleans, where all he does is eat gumbo and jambalaya,
Yeah.
because he's added
I
too
think
much
I
weight.
think I think being I think being next to his mom and like his family there is actually hurting him because his mom's his personal chef, which we've
Yeah,
made a discussion before about his weight.
yeah, we have.
Like I think going to a place that like establishes his like proper training and physicality would be great. Listen, send him to Miami. We'll get him on the Miami Heat like 2% body fat program. We'll transform him into
Uh,
LeBron 2.0. We'll do
there
that.
you go. Okay.
But so
So,
besides those games, yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, so since we were talking about OKC as a surprise team, I want to know one team from each conference that's been a surprise and a disappointment from you, because I have my ideas, but I want to hear yours.
Surprise is the Kings for sure. The fact that they're the 3 seed, they broke the playoff drought in the West for 16 years, right? They're my surprise out West. Out East, I'm gonna say the main surprise is the Cavs. I mean, for them to go up to the 4 seed, I mean, I know they made a big splash in Donovan Mitchell. They gave up a lot to give them, but like their consistency to be higher, they haven't really missed a beat when Mitchell's been hurt a tiny bit. I mean, he scored 73 points in the game this year, right? 71.
The
So
71,
they,
okay.
yeah, they've been really good this season. In the East, for disappointments, I'm gonna say in the West, I'm gonna say the Warriors. I'm gonna say the Warriors were disappointing. I mean, they barely got into the playoffs as a 6 seed, just avoided the play-in tournament. And I mean, this is the champions from last season. No major changes from last year's roster, honestly. I mean, they dealt with some injuries, but not enough to the point to where they should be this bad. And in the East, for disappointment, I mean, you could throw the Heat up there. Honestly, you could throw a lot of teams. You can even throw Toronto up
You can
there
throw
for being so
any
bad.
team in the play-in the East. I think is a disappointment.
Yeah, but like I don't know. You can even throw Brooklyn, but you can also say
Oh,
Brooklyn's a
absolutely.
surprise
Yeah,
because
because they
after
made
they
it.
traded yeah, they made the playoffs after trading their big pieces away, but it's a disappointment because they're not a finals contender now.
Yeah.
But so out east as a disappointment, I'll say Miami. I'll say Miami has been because this was a team that was expected to make the playoffs, win the division. I mean, yeah, they won the division. Big whoop that doesn't give you anything anymore, and they just lost to Atlanta, who finished second to them in the division. So I'll say Miami. Miami expected to be a top 4 seed, 5 seed with the Knicks and Sixers, and they now are fighting for the playoff lives.
Yeah, I think for mine, I have a couple of the same ones. So the West, obviously Sacramento, but for the sake of being different and getting some other teams some props, I'm gonna go with OKC. I mean, this is a team that
Mm-hmm.
finished 2 games below 500, but we thought that this is a team that's going to be vying for yet another like top three pick.
Yeah.
Shea has been the most improved player of the year. Josh Giddey is, from where he was drafted, I think is a steal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
He's been probably the second or third best player from that draft class so far. Um, Jalen Williams is looking like a steal day after day. So yeah, OKC making the play-in, I think, is already a win. I think they're going to win tonight. I don't know if I don't. I think, yeah. You know what? I'm going to take OKC to make it as the 8 seed. They're beating Minnesota too. My disappointment from the West. I don't know. There's a couple like Golden State is disappointing, yeah, but like I feel like the obvious one here is Dallas. Dallas not
Yeah.
making the
Obviously,
playoffs
yeah.
with Luka and Kyrie is probably the biggest disappointment of the year. Didn't even make the play-in. Finished 6 games under 500. In their last 10 to close the season out, they were 2-8. So like they had a chance down the stretch to get into the playoffs and just absolutely collapse. Kyrie
Yeah.
Irving is a cancer to the locker room and to the team. They need to get rid of him. I think Portland is another disappointing team. With any team with Dame on it should be better than 16 games under 500. So it sucks to see Dame yet again miss out on the playoffs because they can't put a competent team around him. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my surprise team in the East is the same. It's Cleveland. There really isn't like a surprise team. Like Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly, 1, 2, 3. We all expected to happen. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
expected the Knicks to probably sneak into right where they're at, the 5 or 6. We thought Brooklyn with Kyrie, KD, we thought they would probably be at the top. So I'll take Cleveland. They're kind of an under the radar team with, I mean, they have Donovan Mitchell, who's elite. They have Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. Like, they're a solid team. I think they're going to give the Knicks a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And then my disappointing team, I think you could say anyone in the play-in. Like I said, like Atlanta with Trey Young finishing in seventh, and with DeJounte Murray getting him and finishing 500 is disappointing. The Heat having Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, a really good home court team, and they're finishing eighth and they're gonna have to play a play-in game to save their season. I think it's a disappointment. Granted, they are 6 games above 500, so I mean that's better than the other ones, I guess, but still. Toronto, like I said, elite top four teams or top four players, but no depth. And then Chicago with Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic being 200, 500 in a really weak East is kind of disappointing too. Um, but yeah, I think we've had a lot of surprises this year. I think Sacramento is probably the biggest surprise out of anyone. Golden State being terrible on the road is surprising too, but
Yeah, just completely bipolar. And when
yeah,
they play against each other, it is a literal hour 50 drive from Golden One Center to the Chase Arena, to Chase Center. That's how like the difference is between Sacramento and Golden
yeah.
State. So I don't know if that home court's going to translate for the Kings because it's going to be filled with Warriors fans.
Oh yeah,
You know that.
absolutely.
So
But at the
I
same
hope that
time, it still is technically a road game, and Golden State has only won 11 of their 41 road games.
that's true. Yeah, they almost did worse than the Pistons this year on the road until they won 2 road games to end the season. So we'll see what happens there.
We don't talk about the Pistons on the podcast anymore.
Yeah, not until the draft, not the lottery, should I
Not
say,
until
then
we
the
get
draft.
Wembanyama, yeah, and then we're good.
Yeah.
But
We do have the playoff picture. If you want to run through some quick predictions, I know we kind of did it last time when we didn't know what the standings are, but everything's set except for the 8 seeds. If you want to run through it real quick.
yeah, just
Uh,
let's go through it. Give me your key players, what each team has to do to win. Just a little rundown of each series.
sure. So starting in the East, the matchup we know for sure it's going to happen is Celtics Hawks, right? 2-7 in Boston to start off, home field advantage, of course. I think Trae Young's going to need to go nuclear for this to happen, and DeJounte Murray's going to need to do great defense against Jalen Brown for this to be a contest. Like,
Yeah,
if they can limit it to just Tatum being the one that hurts them, like, I mean, he can still go off for 50. But I think for the Hawks to have a shot, Trae Young needs to unlock like what he was when they made it to the conference finals before, and they just need to ball out and hope that he can lift them enough scoring wise and that John Collins can do enough of rebounding, running the floor. I would put John Collins on Tatum, honestly, and then put Murray, your best backcourt defender, on Brown, just to try to limit them as much as you can. And for the Celtics, it's just play as they have all year. I mean, they rely on these two stars the most, right? Their combined scoring is over 55 points a game with the two of them. So just keep feeding them the ball, and then that's it. I'm going to take the Celtics in 5. It could be pushed to 6, but I'm going to take Boston. But that's what I'm looking for.
yeah, I think it's the same. Trae Young's gonna have to go crazy for them, and like, oh yeah, that's the boring answer. Everyone knows that, but like, there's really no way for the Hawks to win this series. I mean, you could see Clint Capella and Okongwu being like a big piece of it if they can get 21 offensive rebounds again. Like, that's gonna be tough to beat. So I'm thinking like their centers are gonna have to be good. I mean, Grant Williams is pretty solid for the Celtics, but
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to get a ton of rebounds against this team. You're gonna have to hope. Geez, you have to hope Tatum shoots like 30%. I mean, yeah, you could put John Collins on him. You could put Dejounte Murray on Jalen Brown, but like you still have to hope that Trae Young's dropping 40 a game. I'm gonna take Boston in 4. I don't think the Hawks get a single game. I think Boston, they just can't be complacent. Don't let the Hawks steal one in Boston. If the Hawks can steal
Yeah.
one in Boston, you're going to go back to Atlanta 1-1, and all bets are off then. Atlanta would have the momentum. Then I could see things getting interesting if Atlanta's able to steal one in Boston, but I don't think it happens. I think Boston in 4.
We'll go with the 1 seed, the Bucks. They're obviously playing either the Heat or the Raptors or Bulls, depending on tonight's matchup. Regardless of who they play, I could see the Raptors or Heat taking a game or two, but I think Milwaukee has really figured out how it is with Middleton and Giannis and Drew Holiday even more offensively this year. I'm gonna take the Bucks in 5, regardless of who they play. Like I think if either of those teams want to win, if Miami wants to beat Milwaukee, I think Miami's got to go back to where in the bubble, just extreme lockdown defense, shut down the paint against Giannis, which is what they did. They just built the wall essentially around the paint and hope that the Bucks 3-point shooters don't go out. But the Bucks are way better than that. They won the finals, obviously. And for the Raptors to win, they have to just hope that nobody gets in foul trouble. That's because if any one of their starting 4 or 5 get more than 3 fouls or 4 fouls, they have to rely on their bench too much, and it's not going to be able to work. So I think that's the only way they win. The Bulls, zero chance against
Yeah.
Milwaukee. And for Milwaukee, just do what they've done all season. I mean, they've been the clear top 4 team overall, 5 team overall in the NBA. Just run through Giannis, run through Drew. They have a great home court advantage in Milwaukee. And again, I think the Bucks move on.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't think the Bulls would take a game off of them. I think the Raptors would give them the best out of the three, the best series. I think if the Raptors were to do it, they'd probably take it to like six. Um,
Hmm.
I think the Heat might win one, but yeah, I don't want to speak on it yet because we don't know exactly who's playing. I'm taking Milwaukee in five if it's the Heat. I'm taking them in four if it's the Bulls, and I'm taking them in six if it's the Raptors. So a lot of
Yeah.
variables here, but the Bucks just need to get Giannis out healthy. Don't you don't want this should be a pretty cakewalk series if it's the Heat or the Bulls. You don't want anyone getting injured. Keep Giannis fresh. Keep Drew Holiday fresh. Keep Chris Middleton. I mean, he's coming still off of his leg injury, still getting back up to speed. So just get everyone healthy. I think even if like the Raptors take a game in Milwaukee, it's not too big of a deal. Granted, Toronto is really good at home, but I don't think any of them pose a significant threat to Milwaukee yet.
Yeah. We've got the Sixers Nets 3-6 matchup. I'd take the Sixers in four. Like, Mikal Bridges has been amazing since the trade and has been really stepping up his scoring. Like, I mean, they've Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie have already played more minutes together than Kyrie and KD did as members of the Nets, which is insane.
That's
Because,
wild.
Mikal Bridges is an Iron Man, played 83 games this year because he got traded with an extra game to play for Brooklyn. I do like the Nets' future. I don't like their current for a playoff situation. I think they're exactly who they are. And the Sixers have been with Maxey, Harden, and Embiid really taking it to teams. I think the Sixers are going to win in four. If the Nets have a shot, they have to just somehow allow Embiid to go crazy and shut down everybody else on their team. They have to make sure Max doesn't beat them, Tobias and Harden. But this Sixers team is too potent offensively, I think, for Brooklyn to shut down unless Brooklyn can make it a really grind out game, keep the scoring over under 110. But I don't see them doing it. I take the Sixers in four.
I'm gonna take the Sixers in five. I think the Nets steal one in Brooklyn, probably with like a Mikal Bridges like 35-point game or something. I think they get one. There's just nobody that can stop Embiid on the Nets. Like this team benefited from the rest of the East being really bad down the stretch with the four play-in teams not being good at all. I think this is a team that very easily could have been a 10 seed and playing tonight. I think they
Yeah,
steal one. I don't know. There's no one that's stopping James Harden. I mean, Mikal Bridges will probably, I'd say, put him on James Harden.
yeah,
He's probably their best defender. But
he
there's
is.
just there's no one that's gonna stop Joel Embiid. Like who I can't even name their center right now.
Nick Claxton. He's probably
Yeah.
going to win
Okay.
Defensive Player of the Year, like be top five in voting.
Oh, I
Like
was say he's not winning it, but
no, but he'll be top five. I mean, they have good defenders. Dorian Finney-Smith, who they got from Dallas in the Kyrie trade. They have good defenders. They just can't score enough, I don't think, to keep up with them.
I just don't think there's gonna be anyone that stops Embiid. He's on his MVP kind of like victory lap. Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
he's probably gonna go crazy this
Postseason.
yeah, there you go. I couldn't think of the word.
The closest matchup by far in the East for me is Cavs Knicks. It's 4-5 matchup. I think the Cavs and Donovan Mitchell are going to win in seven. I think it's going to go the distance. I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have some kind of crazy game in Madison Square Garden. He performs when the lights are brightest. Him and Darius Garland are a deadly 1-2 punch. Obviously, Brunson and Randall can rely on that. I think the Knicks rely too much on Randall, who's also coming back from that injury he got against the Heat a couple weeks ago. But I still think the Knicks can win some games in Cleveland, defend home court enough times to push to seven. But I'm going to take the Cavs in seven.
Was Madison Square Garden where Donovan Mitchell dropped his 70-point game this year?
It was.
I feel like it
No,
was.
no, no. Sorry, it was against the Knicks in Cleveland. It was in
Oh,
Cleveland.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it was in Cleveland.
I thought it was against the Knicks, but couldn't remember if it was in MSG or
Yeah, it was
not.
in
But
Cleveland.
still, I mean, he's already dropped 70 on him once. I'm taking the Cavs. I'm gonna take him in six. I think they steal one in oh
MSG.
my god, and MSG. Yeah, the Cavs, my surprise team in the East with Donovan Mitchell, with Evan Mobley, like they're underrated, I think, but Donovan Mitchell kind of puts them over the top for me. Julius Randle's he's been good, but I don't know. I think this is going to be the best series out of the East for sure, but I don't know if the Knicks have enough firepower to stay with Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah. In the West, the number one seed is the Denver Nuggets. They'll be playing at home against, again, whoever wins the play today versus the Wolves. Or I guess the Wolves, and then we'll play Denver.
Also, by the
I
way,
think,
Cavs best defense in the league. Didn't forget to say that. So
gotcha. We'll see if it translates to the playoffs. But I'm taking Denver. I'm taking Denver in four. I think none of these teams they're good enough to win the playing game, and none of them are good enough to win a series in Denver, especially in
no,
Denver. Jokic, Murray, Aaron Gordon, like you're not going to have enough to beat this team. Like I think Denver sweeps whoever they play.
I think so too. I don't think it matters who they play. Jokic has been out for the last like couple weeks, so he's been resting. He's going to be healthy. Their team is healthy. I don't think there's a way that any of these teams win this series, so I can't even say like, yeah, this is what they can do to win. Like, unless they quite literally take out Jokic's knees, like they're not going to do
Yeah.
anything. And again, they just need to get out health. Like all of these number one seeds should have both the number ones and the two seeds should have like relatively easy. So you just want to see them get out healthy, no big injuries, and don't let the other team get momentum. Like if any of these teams steal a game in Denver, though, like any of these three, I don't feel like it's the same as Toronto stealing one. Um,
Mhm.
I just don't think either of these. Denver's been the best team in the league pretty much all year, so I don't see them slipping up in the first round.
The splits with Jokic off the court are terrible. Like when
Yeah,
he
it's
is not on
bad.
the court, they are like middle of the pack. But I think as long as he doesn't get into foul trouble or barring an injury, like I think they'll be fine. And if he gets into
Okay.
foul trouble, he'll make enough of an impact while he's on the court to be fine. We've got probably the most debated series, I would say, between our predictions. It's going to be Grizzlies Lakers. Your Lakers are going to travel to Memphis. John Morant, he said, what was it, in January in the interview with ESPN? Like, we're not scared of anybody out west. And then the West made 15 trades to the deadline to get better. I like Memphis in this matchup. As crazy as it is, I think Jaren Jackson against Anthony Davis is going to be a great matchup to watch all series. I think the Lakers don't really have an answer for Ja Morant at the one. I mean, I know that's D'Lo, but defensively against Ja, Dylan Brooks is going to guard LeBron, and that's going to be comedy just to see what Dylan Brooks does. It's going to be like when Lance Stevenson was going against LeBron, just what he does to get in his head. I like the Grizz in seven. I like Memphis in seven to knock out the Lakers. I think the Lakers are this low for a reason throughout the season. They have the upside to make it to the finals, but they can also barely beat the Wolves, short staffed at home in a high stakes playoff scenario. So I think it's going to even out, and I think the Grizz are going to win in seven. It wouldn't surprise me if the Lakers won because whenever you have LeBron James in your team, you've got a shot. But the Grizz can continue to hold home court. If Jaw can make enough plays like he does normally, and they can limit the extent that LeBron and AD go, which I think they will, Jaren Jackson's going to be the primary defender on him, then I think the Grizz take it.
Yeah, the Grizzlies are the best statistical home court team in the league. It's going to be tough to take one in Memphis. I'm going to take the Lakers to do it, though. They're a pretty above average road team. I'm not betting against LeBron in the playoffs. I'm going to take the Lakers in seven. I think Jaren Jackson's going to be good. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Ja's going to be great. I think all of these games are going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be a fun series. I'm going to take the Lakers on the upset in seven. I don't. I like you said. I wouldn't be surprised if the Grizzlies ended up winning. I think this will be the best series out of all
Mm-hmm.
of the playoffs first round series. I'm just not betting against LeBron in the first round.
Yeah, I can't like we said before. I can't wait to watch the Western playoffs.
Yeah,
Like just watch it because especially if the Heat don't make it in the East. Like I'll probably catch a couple Cavs Knicks games, but I'm definitely watching the West playoffs. I'll stay up late to watch them. We've got the battle of the teams closest to the Bay. We've got the Kings of Sacramento finally in the playoffs, playing against the Warriors, defending champs, Golden State. Again, this is going to be a tough game because when the Warriors have been healthy and playing, at times they've looked. I mean, they beat the Portland by 53 on the road last week, but the Kings have defended home very well. They've been balanced throughout the season. They've never really fallen too low. They've been pretty consistent at the top four in the West. I'm taking Sacramento. I said it 2 weeks ago. I said it last week. Sacramento's going to win their first playoff series. God knows how long. I don't know if it was even. It was 16 years. The same time they went to the final playoffs last time. I'm going to take Sacramento in seven. I think Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. They've got the pieces. Davion Mitchell. They've got Murray, the power forward. I think they have enough. Obviously, with Harrison Barnes and Kevin Herter, they have enough to score with the Warriors. I think the Kings are the number one or second fastest in pace and offensive rating in the West. So I'm going to take Sacramento in seven.
I'm going to take Golden State in six. They won the regular season 3-1. I mean, granted, they were close games. They won, by five, by three, by seven, and then blew them out in the last game of the year where everyone was resting. Um, but they've beaten the Kings in uh, Sacramento. I mean,
Sacramento.
their road struggles we know. I don't know how big of an advantage Sacramento's going to have at home this year, though. Are they, they're like you said, an hour and a half away from each other. I don't. I
Hmm.
don't think it's going to be too big of a road environment. They've beaten them 3 times. I'm like just like LeBron. I'm not betting against Steph in the playoffs. I think Sacramento's been a great story. I love it. DeMontis Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox have been great. I just think experience in the playoffs is a lot more important than people think it is, and the Golden State Warriors have a lot of playoff experience. I'm going to take them in 6.
And the 4-5 matchup, if Paul George was playing in this series, I would honestly consider the Clippers winning a couple
And he
games.
might.
But
He might.
if he might come back, he's not playing game one, but he might come back for the rest of the series. I'm taking Phoenix in 5 against the Clippers. I think if Kawhi, there's enough pieces there. Russell Westbrook has been amazing since he got acquired by LA. He's been almost reverent to his last year in the Thunder, first year in Houston. Since he joined, I think the Suns just have enough. Like they're almost similar to the Raptors, but their talent is way better in their starting 4, starting 5. They're not super deep, but I mean KD and Devin Booker. You got Chris Paul distributing the rock, Cam Johnson, or not Cam Johnson, DeAndre Ayton is the big man there. I like Phoenix in 5. I think if it goes to 6, it wouldn't surprise me. But again, this is the team that I think is going to, even as a 4 seed, they're the most dangerous team out west. Like, I would consider them over the Grizzlies and Kings and even the Nuggets in the West to be the favorites. But I'm going to take Phoenix in 5. And yeah, I think KD and D Book, he hasn't lost. He's lost one game in his last 21 games, Kevin Durant.
Yeah, he's
Like,
9 and
it's
0 with the
insane.
Suns.
Yeah, so I think he's matched pretty well. Again, it's not a ton of experience because he got hurt by the freaking towel or the court manager in Phoenix, delayed his debut. But I'm gonna take Phoenix in 5.
Yeah, I will too. I do think Paul George is going to come back at some point in the series. It's just going to be too late. He's not playing the first 2. I think they have like a week off after that until game 3, which is weird. But it's like they play Sunday, Tuesday, and then they don't play again until like the following Sunday. So I mean, if they're able to get Paul George back in LA, that first game he's probably gonna get a minutes restriction. Suns are gonna go up 3-0. I think they steal game 4 with a healthy Paul
Mm-hmm.
George. They might steal that one. Just the Suns looking ahead. But I think they finish it out in Phoenix in game 5. Like you said, Kevin Durant hasn't lost a game with Phoenix yet. He's been crazy. This top 4 is elite. It's probably better than any lineup in the West. And it's just a collision course with Denver at this point.
So we've got the first round. We're not gonna go through the rest, but just give me who you think is in the finals, who wins it, and who needs the deepest playoff run or a ring the most. What team or player do you feel to justify their creation of the team or the player, like legacy wise, who needs the ring the most? And who do you
So
see in the finals?
I'm staying for who needs it the most and what teams I'm staying out here in the desert. I think it has to be Phoenix for what they did at the deadline, giving up all of those pieces for Kevin Durant. I think they need to. They're going to have a couple of years of it, but I think with a pretty kind of weaker East, I think this is the year that they need to take advantage of it. Um, a down year for LeBron, like that man's run the West for not forever because he's only been there for a couple of years, but run whatever divisions he's in, he's running it. It's an off year. I think Phoenix has to do it. And player wise, I think it has to be Chris Paul, like probably a top 3 point guard of all time, top 5 point guard of all time. Doesn't have a ring, like, and I know he wants a ring. He needs a ring just to like have that self worth of like, yeah, I've got a ring and I'm a top 5 point guard of all time. So those are my 2.
And who do you think is actually going to make it in the finals against them?
Uh, I don't have Phoenix making the finals.
You don't. So
I
you
do
think they
not.
need it, but they won't make it.
They need it, but they won't make it. I've got Denver. They've been the best team all year. I think that because they won't, Denver won't even play the Suns in the Western Conference Finals. It'll be round 2, which is going to
Yes, that means
be
yeah, insane.
insane if that happens. I think
Yeah.
Denver gets past them, and then they get a pretty easy Western Conference Finals. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
Denver. I'm going to take Denver and Boston. I think Boston
Okay.
has a pretty easy route to it as well. I don't know. The East, it could be like any of 3 teams, and I'm like, okay, they made it. But I think Denver's probably going to be. It's going to be between Denver and Phoenix. I'll take Denver in 7, and then Denver is going to beat Boston. I think in the finals, it'll probably go 6 or 7 too. I'm going to take Denver to win it all.
So I agree with your Phoenix pick needing it the most. because, like you said, for CP3's legacy, for Kevin Durant, because I don't know if you consider this a super team. Definitely not as much as when he was in the Warriors, right, to win the
No, but it's
title.
pretty damn close.
But it's close. But for him to get a ring and not be like with Steph, and for CP3 to finally get a ring, right, finally can retire, not be like Carmelo Anthony or all these greats that don't win a ring. I think for
Which
Phoenix to win
apparently
the
now,
title,
I was
what's
gonna say,
up?
apparently there's an argument going on that or that Luka Doncic is already better than Carmelo Anthony career wise, and I thought that was insane. You brought up Melo, had to bring that up. No, people that are saying that are on crack.
Yeah, no way. Um, for who needs the deepest run, I'm going to say Philly. I think Philly needs the deepest run. They have yet to make the conference finals with Joel Embiid, right? This is a team that, again, is built to win not only now, but in the next 4 years because Tyrese Maxey's only going to get better. Harden, though, is you could see his play style kind of being consistent, if not tanking a little bit in the next couple seasons. And Embiid's in his prime. Like, this is a team that needs to justify them keeping this core together. Tobias Harris is going to be traded in the offseason regardless, but I think they're going to do it also. I am picking in the finals the two teams I think need it the most. I'm picking Phoenix against Philly in the finals this season. It's not too unbound. It's mainly can the Sixers get past Boston and Milwaukee to get there. And for Phoenix, it's just can they get past the Nuggets? You know, I think whoever they play, the Lakers or Warriors or the Kings, like whoever it is, they'll get by. And I'm going to say that Philly loses to Phoenix. I think Phoenix gets it done. I mean, it's going to be crazy in Phoenix if it happens for you. But I'm going to say Phoenix gets it done in 7. I think it'd be a really good matchup, right? 8, and they get some beat Harden and KD, former teammates, going at it against each other in the finals, right? You have Harden actually get to the finals for the first time in his career. So I'm going to say Philly against Phoenix. I'm going to say Phoenix gets it done in 7.
I would like that, but I don't know if it happens.
I hope so.
We'll see. I hope so, but we'll see.
Look, we touched a little bit about the Zion news, about how he's mentally not ready to get back, and again about how I think he needs probably to change the situation, like you said, to finally get his success. And we had DeMarcus Cousins rumored today, so he's joining a team in Puerto Rico. Uh, thoughts on uh, Boogie not even getting a contract in the NBA?
No, he said the other day he still thinks he's a top 3 center in the league, which I thought was absolutely insane. But um, I think every starting center at this point is probably better than Boogie. But what happened to this dude? He was
Injuries.
like, yeah, I guess, but like, was insane with Sacramento. Then he went. Is that when he went to Golden State?
New
No,
Orleans.
New Orleans.
He
Yeah,
went to New Orleans. He got
yeah.
traded.
But like, damn, Boogie is like a relic of the past at this point. Happy for him. He's continuing his basketball career. He's not a top 3 center in the league. Um, but yeah, it's really nothing for me. Just kind of an old, washed up guy playing in Puerto Rico now.
I actually watched him when he played the Heat when I was in Sacramento, and I thought, wow, this guy is going to be amazing. And he was. And when he was playing with AD in New Orleans, there was a chance, but then he tore his ACL, didn't get re-signed by the Pelicans, went to Golden State 1-year deal, got hurt in the playoffs for them too when they lost to the Raptors, and he hasn't been the same since because he's
Yeah.
tore his Achilles, he's tore his um, ACL. But like you said, proud to see him return and keep playing. And I think that's it for basketball, unless you want to add anything more to the postseason preview.
I can't think of anything else. We still have a couple
Yeah?
more days till the series. They start on Saturday, right?
Yeah. Saturday is the matchups that don't involve the play-in teams, then Sunday involves the play-in teams.
So next episode we'll probably have a couple of games from each series done. So
Maybe even a series done, depending if the teams take a 2-0 lead or 3-0 lead.
yeah.
We'll see. We did have opening day last episode, which we talked about. Now the MLB season has continued. Yesterday, it was a proud day to be a Marlins fan because we finally had somebody hit for the cycle. We were the last team of all 32 teams to have it happen. Luis Arias hit for the first cycle. He started off in a weird order. He had a double, then a triple, then a home run, then a single.
That would suck if he didn't get it. If he didn't get the single, he got everything else. That would be.
And it was in the ninth he got it too.
Yeah.
It was in the ninth inning he got the single. So shout out to him.
In the
We
league,
had
batting average too, like 530 something.
5. Yep. And I told you yesterday, like this might have been the best mutual trade because not only is Luis Arias being amazing, he's reminding me of Luis Castillo when he played for the Marlins and he had a hit in like 34 straight games or something like that when he was on the Marlins. But Pablo Lopez, who they gave away for him, he retired 23 batters in a row last night for the Twins. Like, off to an amazing start for them. And I think it's just a very good mutual trade in the past 4 years. Both teams are getting the immediate benefits from it, as opposed to like, the Soto deal, the Turner deals, those kind of stuff, where it's been really one sided. But we had more history happen yesterday. If you want to cover the other things you thought were interesting.
Yeah, we had Ryan Mountcastle with 9 RBIs against the A's, which I mean, come on, it's the A's. They're like 2-8. They're the worst team, second worst team in baseball behind the Tigers. And I got a little nugget on the A's in a little bit, but yeah, shout out
Yep.
Ryan Mountcastle. The Orioles are fun to watch this year with him, with Santander, with Adley Rutschman. They're a fun team. They just called up Grayson Rodriguez. The Orioles, sneaky good. And then Merrill Kelly was our first no watch of the year until ESPN jinxed it. Went 6 innings of no hit baseball last night, and then the second ESPN sent out the Merrill Kelly is no hitting the Brewers through 6 innings. Willie Adames goes 450 to straightaway center field for a home run to break it up. So the ESPN curse lives on. Was at the
Yep.
game, quite upset. Right when he hit it, everyone knew that it was going straight center, just over everyone. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Rule number one in baseball: you never talk about a no hitter. I don't know why ESPN insists on tweeting, sending notifications of like, oh, he's got a no through 7. Like, shut up and tweet about it after.
Yeah.
Don't say anything,
Yeah.
because I'm not kidding you. I looked at my phone at like it was like, I think it was the end of the 5th or whatever, and I looked at my phone and was like, oh, no hitter through 6. Second pitch of the at bat, 440. Like, really? Come on.
Imagine if you were there, then you were part of history. You could have seen
I
the
was
hitter
like,
live.
after 4, you could tell the crowd was like, okay, like this might happen. And then, like, you know how every no hitter, there's one or two like plays that have to happen, like an insane
Yeah,
diving
defensive. Yeah.
catch. And we had that in the 5th with Josh Rojas. He like ran, it was a dribbler of a ball down third base. He ran up at it, stabbed at it, threw off balance, got him at first by half a step. And once that happened to end the 5th, I was like, oh, that's the moment. That's like the
Yeah.
defensive moment that you have to have for a no hitter, and then it fell
Hmm.
apart. But shout out Merrill Kelly for the first no watch of the year, I guess. Not a full no hitter, got 6 innings, probably the closest he's gonna get anytime soon.
We do have the hottest team in baseball is in Florida. I wish it was the Marlins. It's probably never going to be. No, it's the Tampa Rays. I mean, they're still rolling. They're 11-0. It's the best start to a season since the 1980s. Um, I mean, they haven't really played the best of teams, but
No
they
sir.
have outscored everybody. They have given up the least amount of runs in baseball, and they've scored the most amount of runs. I mean, they have been the talk of baseball. I mean, it's looking like tonight they're going to continue it again. What do you make of Tampa? And I mean, I thought they were barely going to make the playoffs, so this is a complete surprise for me. But what do you make of Tampa really showing out to start the year?
Yeah, I mean 11-0 is impressive no matter who you play. Granted, I will say it's been like the Tigers, the Red Sox, the Nationals, and I can't think of the A's. So
The A's, man.
it has not been good teams at all bottom of the barrel, bottom of their division. But still, I mean, the odds that you go 11-0 are pretty rare. Usually, some team is going to luck into a win. But yeah, they've looked good. They've got the most home runs by like 8. I think they have 29 home runs. I think
Yep.
second place is at 21. Their RBIs, they're killing everybody, and they're at 81. Their ERA is at 1.7, which is, I think the second best team is the Brewers at 2.5. So they're going insane. They just called up their number 1 prospect. I think he's number 18 in the overall pipeline. Taj Bradley, right-hander, he's making his debut tonight. Um,
Hmm.
and this rotation looks like it just got even better. They already have Jeffrey Springs, who still has a 0 ERA. They already have Shane McClanahan, who's a Cy Young candidate. They have Glasnow coming back, and now you're adding their number 1 prospect. Like, this team could win 120 games this year.
You're right. Like, I mean, there's nothing more to say than Tampa really knows how to make a baseball team. They
Yeah,
know how to develop their players and stay with it. I mean, I don't think they'll break the A's record of most wins in the American League, but I mean, this is what you get. Like this team is spending less than the Marlins, and they are 11-0. To spend less than Miami, you got to be doing something crazy. And for them to be one of the best team in baseball right now, just shows how good their development is, how good their coaching staff is as well. Just get them a new ballpark. We said it last
Yeah,
episode. Just get them
yeah.
a new
Get
ballpark.
him in the ballpark. Is
Make it fun to go to the game.
by the way, speaking of Miami, is Sandy still in his like rookie contract?
Yes, he is.
I was gonna say,
He he.
how do they not spend? Like, they're gonna have to pay money for that guy.
No, next year his extension
Yeah.
kicks in. We already extended him, but next year
Oh,
his
okay.
money goes
Okay.
up. Yeah, yeah. We're only paying him like I think 5 million this year, six
Oh my
million or
god.
something,
I
and then
mean,
it
I
goes up
will
to
say
13 next.
he got shellacked the other day against the Phillies, but I guess every good
Yeah,
pitcher has their days. But yeah, they're raising a new
yeah.
stadium, move that team. They're electric so far this year. I mean, granted, again, their schedule has been weak, but hey, they play who they play and they win, so you can't fault them yet.
They could have a stadium that like overlooks the actual bay in Tampa, like
Yeah.
super sick. They could have like an awesome stadium if they want to. It's just Tampa's trying to be cheap.
And instead, it's the Tropicana Dome, and it's just weird rules. If it hits the
It's
ceiling,
slanted.
if you
The
hit the
dome
ceiling
is
in one
slanted.
part, you hit it in one part, it's a home run. You hit it in another part, it's an out. I,
Yeah,
it's just it's awful for baseball. They have a cool stingray tank, I guess, so that's dope. But move that team, get them a new stadium. It needs to be
yeah.
like Miami has with a retractable roof, because I mean, 95% of the time they're playing with the roof open, and probably a little less than that. But that South Florida rain is deadly.
They could move Marlins Park, like Lone Depot Park, just do the exact same thing in Tampa, and everyone would love it. Because
Yeah,
instead, we have the sliding windows that show downtown and all the buildings.
yeah,
Just do that, but to the ocean or to the bay in Tampa.
yeah,
Like that'd be amazing to have. But
yeah.
I digress.
Tampa needs to figure that one out.
Speaking of stadiums, I know you saw that some teams are now extending beer sales to the end of the eighth inning because games are wrapping up quicker and there's not enough times they're arguing for fans to get enough alcohol. I mean, they have lost already. What was it, $10 million or $1 million in beer sales than last year, with just the less amount of time to actually sell the alcohol. But the whole point of wrapping up the beer sales was that way there's no like extremely drunk drivers or people drinking right before they leave the stadium. But I think just open it up earlier and allow the beer sales earlier, which they do. Like, they open the beer sales as soon as the stadium is open. Just get to the ballpark earlier if you want to drink. Like, I don't really like that you can buy it later in the innings. Just get off your butt and go get the beer earlier. So that way you have enough time to enjoy it before the game ends. Because I would rather see that than like you endanger a fan in the
Yeah,
parking lot or somebody else on the roads.
yeah. Like that's part of the argument, but the other side is like, well, if it ends in the seventh inning, like what's one inning? Like if you wanted to get drunk and drink and drive, like you're buying 8 beers in the seventh anyway. It's like, what's the harm in pushing it back an inning? People want to drink and drive, they're gonna drink and drive. It's fucking stupid. I think there should be quite more punishment than there is nowadays for it, but that's a discussion for a different podcast. But yeah, sports
Yeah.
wise, I think it's good and bad. I don't think there's really going to be a middle ground here. Like I was fine with leaving it in the seventh inning. Like it's not that big of a deal. Like you said, if you want a beer, go get it. Like I got mine in the fifth inning the other day. And I mean, it's not like you could buy a bunch like $20 a beer at stadiums now. So
Yeah.
just go get your beer early. I mean, but I also like it's the eighth inning. Like whatever. As long as
But
people aren't,
it's
there needs to be a limit. I think is what it needs to be. Not a time limit, but a limit of how many you can buy.
But especially now that the innings are so much shorter, because the eighth
Yeah,
and ninth innings before the pitch clock would take an extra 40 minutes, but
yeah,
now it's taking like 20 minutes. So that's what I'm saying. Like even time wise, it makes even more sense to keep it in the seventh because they'd be like multiple pitch visits, they'd be mound visits, pickoffs. Like the ending of the game just be so dragged out, like the last 2 minutes of basketball, and now it's much shorter. So I think that's even more of a reason to keep it in the seventh.
yeah.
Like I don't think you need to change it.
Yeah, and I will say, speaking on the new rules, we were able to go to the last two games. I gotta say, I love it. I thought it was gonna be great for TV, but I was gonna hate it for going to the park, like going to the games. I love it.
Hmm.
The first game, it was I think maybe 2 hours and 10 minutes. We left at like 8:50, perfect.
Yeah,
And then last night we left in the seventh because we were getting smoked like 7-0. But still, like 7 innings went. It was like an hour and a half, maybe a little bit
yeah.
less. I gotta say, I love it. It's still the same amount of baseball. I thought I was gonna hate it because I like spending time in the park, but like at the same time, same amount of baseball. You just don't have to sit there and watch 18 different mound visits. So I think the new rules are perfect for baseball. And I mean, we
Yeah,
can even add on to it, and I'll even say stolen bases are great too. Someone's going to break 70
yeah,
this year.
yeah. I mean, the bases being bigger, I think, is being undervalued a lot because everyone's just focused on time. But just the bases being bigger allows like you to have a little bit further to the other base, like especially from first to second, just gives shortens that distance that much. So I think you're right. Somebody's going to hit at least 60 stolen bases. Like, I mean, Brian Reynolds is on pace for 74 home runs, so that is not going to happen. But I mean, for
No.
the stolen bases, I think he can. And I think it's like all the
There's two guys at
changes have been
six
great.
right now. So there's two guys at six and
Hmm.
quite a few guys at five. So someone's definitely hitting like 70 this year at least.
Yeah. We do have some individual players we want to shout out for their great performances so far. Garrett Cole, really good start for the Yankees. I mean, they've won every game he started. He went 7 innings, gave up 2 runs to the Guardians. Again, it's too early to count like for MVP or Cy Young, but him and Otani have been on the top. I mean, Otani's been even better pitching he was this year than he was
Yeah.
last year. But shout out to Garrett Cole and to Otani for being amazing, early Cy Young favorites. But again, we got to wait at least a month to worry about
Yeah.
awards. Jordan Walker for the Cardinals, right?
Yeah. 11
Yeah,
game
for the
hit
Cardinals.
streak.
Okay. Yeah, 11 game hitting streak to start off his career. There was a lot of discussion about whether they're going to bring him up right away after spring training or wait for the service time, and they decided not to, which has been great. And yeah, 11 game hit streak to start off his career. Obviously, the right move for St. Louis. For rookie of the year, I don't think there's any standout players in the National League, so I think Walker can really make a case for this to be his
I think there's
case.
three in the NL right now. I think it's Jordan Walker, Corbin Carroll, and Outman from the Dodgers right now. That are probably the three like favored guys. I
Yeah,
think going into the before the season started, and Corbin Carroll was the favorite. Jordan Walker's probably
yeah,
overtaken him a little bit. So it's probably going to be a two-horse race between those two, but I do think it's going to be a fun rookie of the year in the NL.
yeah. We have more pitching to talk about. We want to talk about Corbin Burns and Marcus Stroman making a very good starts to the season for their respective clubs.
Yeah, Corbin Burns had a really tough first couple of games, and then was able to put down the Diamondbacks last night. I don't know if he won a complete game. He won at least 8. I'm not sure if he went 9. We left early, but he was dominant. He had the stuff. Corbin Burns is back. He had a rough start, and he basically shut out the Diamondbacks. I think we scored a one. If he pitched a complete game, he gave up 1, but if he pitched 8, he didn't give up any. Um, I had Corbin Burns as like a top 3 Cy Young guy to begin the year, and then he
You did, you did.
kind of started out pretty shit. But this is, I think, a good turning point. Like I knew going in, I was like, it's Corbin Burns. Like he's had bad games. Like he's gonna have an elite game soon, and he just happened to have it last night against the Diamondbacks.
Yeah. And then Marcus Stroman, I mean, back-to-back shutouts of the Brewers and Rangers, especially against the Brewers, who we're going to talk about in a minute, being a really good team offensively starting out the season. And their bullpen and their starters have been great too. But he's making his third start against the Mariners. He shut out the Rangers as well, who obviously have all the big offseason acquisitions from last year. They're still carrying over. But then we have the worst of the worst. That is the Oakland A's. And minus 53 in run differential. I mean, we knew the A's were going to be bad. I think we didn't think they were going to be this bad this soon.
Yeah, they are
They
bad.
and and usually the A's have like one or two like star-ish players they can like
Yeah, like
develop or like
when
trade,
they had
like Donaldson in the past
Matt Olson, Matt
or
Chapman.
Cespedes.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they have nobody now, and they're going to be a tanking team. Shout out to the A's for giving us Jesus Luzardo, who is now 3-0, has an ERA still under 1, and has been amazing as our second starter. So thank you for him from the
The
A's.
A's are going to be a fun team to watch in Las Vegas in a couple of years.
Yeah, yeah. When they need to move
they
out of
got to
their
move that
stadium.
team. They have
That
to.
stadium
Like
is awful.
Oakland is. There's already a bunch of teams like in that area. You got the Dodgers, the Angels, the Giants, the Padres. Like there's already a ton of
Hmm.
California teams. Move this team to Las Vegas. I'd say the A's are probably the worst out of all of those teams. Very
Yeah,
easily have the worst like team history, at least recently. I think they should absolutely move them. I think Vegas is the perfect spot. I don't know if they will do it, but poor A's fan. If you're like a legitimate A's fan, like I genuinely feel sorry for you.
like imagine your other two teams and the Niners and the Warriors, and then you have to worry about the
Then you
A's in
have the
baseball.
A's, yeah,
Like just such a like crash
yeah.
from quality and history of the teams. So I agree. I think the A's should go to LA. Maybe make them the Vegas Aces, like the WNBA team that's there. That'd be a sick name for pitchers, right? The
Yeah.
starting staff, but they'll make it work. After watching 2 weeks of baseball, we do have some power rankings to give you about how we feel about some of the teams and how they're doing. If you want to break down yours real quick, Taylor, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, yeah. Well, number one, I have the Rays. Obviously, they're 11-0. You can't put them anywhere else. They're leading. They're the best offensive, pitching, defensive, everything. Again, shit schedule, easy schedule. Can't fault them though. They're playing who they were scheduled and they're beating them. Number two, I got the
Mhm.
Brewers. They've split the series with the D-backs, who are also on this list. Forewarning. But they've been really good. Their pitching is elite. Corbin Burns has kind of been like the one question mark so far, and then last night's kind of proved like, okay, yeah, he still has his stuff. They've only given up 27 runs all year. They're pretty solid at the plate. Um, what happened to Christian Yelich though? Like that man was elite in Miami. He had like one or two elite
MVP
years.
season
Yeah, a couple like really good years in Milwaukee, and then kind of just
crashed.
plummeted. Kind of wondering where he went. Still have the Brewers at two. Number three, I have the Padres. Xander has probably been one of the best additions in the offseason so far with 4 home runs. I think he has like 10 to 12 RBIs. And this is all without Tatis. He's nearing his return, and they just did take 3 of 4 from the Braves. Four, I got the Blue Jays. Their starting rotation is elite with Manoah, Gosman. I still don't think Gosman's given up a run yet this season. They score a lot. They do give up a lot, but they are fun to watch. I think their run differential is like +2, but they've scored like 63 runs already. So
Hmm.
they're going to be a fun team to watch all year. The Yankees, I have at five. It's the Yankees. They could go winless, and someone's putting them in the top 10 just because it's the Yankees. But if you have
Yep.
Aaron Judge, if you have, you know what I do hate is Nestor Cortez's his windup. I don't know if you saw it the other day. I don't know how that's not a balk, but it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I have seen it.
I hate it. But yeah, the Yankees just get. I think they're like 7-4. They haven't really like shocked anyone, but like it's the Yankees. Six, I got the Braves. Injuries aside, they've managed it well. I know Freed's been on the IL. They've gotten. I mean, they lost 3 or 4 to the Braves or to the Padres, but I still think they're probably the best team in that division as of right now. The D-backs at seven. The Snakes are leading the NL West as of right now, which is not what I thought would happen. They had a tough start to the schedule. They played a 4 game series with the Dodgers. It started off, split that. Played two with the Padres, split that. Took 3 of 4 from the Dodgers again at home, and then now have a 3 game series with the Brewers. Like that has to be the hardest stretch of schedule. They're 7-5 right now with a day game against the Brewers to see who wins the series. I think Corbin Carroll's elite. They have good pitching. Their bullpen has been surprisingly not terrible this year. The D-backs are good. Eight, I got the Twins. They're leading the AL Central. It's kind of shit. Pablo Lopez has been great. Carlos Correa is good. Got him at eight. The Angels, the LA, Anaheim Trouts, and Otanis, because that's all there is on that team is Shohei and Mike Trout. Anthony Rendon might have a future in the UFC. Um, him trying to get into a scrap with a fan in Oakland of all
Yep.
places. The Angels, I have them at nine, but they need to put something else around that team. And then I got the Rangers at 10. I didn't know where to put the Rangers. Like at one point, I wanted them at 4, and I was like, that might be a little high. And then like MLB's power rankings, them at 20. I was like, that's way too low. Degrom still has it. They're second in the league in the run scored behind the Rays. Like I know Seager's out. I don't know how long he's gonna be out. He left the game with a hamstring injury. Andrew Heaney set the AL record for 9 straight Ks, or tied it. Maybe he tied it. I think
Tied
actually
it. Tied it.
one of the Tigers had the record too. I can't remember who it was, but um, the Rangers are a weird team. Like I've seen them as low as 20, and I've seen them as high as 4. So it's kind of put them in the middle just because you're not knowing what you're gonna get with them. But I feel like it's a pretty. I don't think I missed like a very blatant team.
No, no, I don't think you did. I'm very similar. So I got the Rays at 1. I think again, best team in baseball, allow the least, score the most. When you win 11 games, you deserve that spot. Brewers at 2, I agree. I mean, they swept the Mets, right? No small task, shutting down that lineup for 3 games in Milwaukee. It took Zach Gallen to have a masterclass to shut him out of a game. They've only allowed more than 1 run 3 times this year, which means every other game's been either a shutout or only a 1 run game. So they have elite pitching. They've been great. I had the Rangers at 3. So you said somebody else had them at 4. I have them at 3. I mean, the fourth best run differential. The Grom has been his usual self besides his opening day start, right? And they still won that. They swept Philly to open up the year in Philly. Like this team, I think looks legit, and they're one of the teams that I said could surprise in the AL West. and take that spot from Houston. That's so far coming true, which I told you about.
Yeah, you were on
So I
something.
like Texas. The Braves at 4. They've had a lot of injury stuff. I mean, Max Fried is on the IL, but again, they lost 3 straight to San Diego. I get that. But this team can score. This team is looking like they may go over the Mets, who aren't even in our top 10, neither of ours, because
Oh
they've had
no,
a
they're not.
mixed start to begin the season. I like the Braves, even though the Padres beat the Braves. More so, I like Padres at 5 because they lost 2 to the Rockies, and that just immediately downgrades their elevation to me. Um, Again, this team can score a lot. Bogarts has been an amazing addition in the offseason, leading off, playing shortstop until Tatis comes back. Like, he has been awesome. Soto and Machado have also been really clutch. So I think with Tatis, the ceiling just only gets bigger. I like the Blue Jays at 6. You know, they played their first home game last night. They
Yeah,
played their
against the
first
Tigers.
they, they played their first 10 games on the road, which is
That's
insane to me.
insane.
And they went 6-4, and then now they're 7-4 because they won last night. Um, I mean, Kevin Kiermaier, all the time in Tampa and Naples, like we would see the highlights, like great Gold Glove, All Star catch, and now the hitting's coming along too. He's been a great under the radar addition for them, really helping them in the outfield. I got the Twins at 7, similar how you have them at 8. Again, Pablo's been amazing. They've had injuries though. Joey Gallo is on the injured list. Max Kepler's on the injured list. Now Carlos Correa might be ending up there too, so we'll see how their health is in the next couple of seasons. I got the D-backs at 8. Yeah, nice recovery, rough first 5 games. They took 3 out of 4 from the Dodgers. You know what's weird about the schedule is they only play the Dodgers one more time at home.
Yeah, in August.
Yeah,
Let
you
me.
play 4 series against your division, and that's it. So you play 2 at home and 2 on the road. So I already missed the Mets series at home for the Marlins. So if I want to see them play New York, I gotta wait till August, like the you have to do for the Dodgers.
Let me tell you what our schedule lines up as. So starting in this might be the easiest schedule in baseball. So we get starting on this month, the 24th. It's Kansas City,
Hmm.
Colorado, 2 games against Texas, which is tough. Washington, Miami, the Giants,
Yep.
Oakland, Pittsburgh, Philly, Colorado again, Washington, Detroit. Like that. That's and there's a couple of series with like Boston in there. That's the easiest
That I mean,
schedule.
besides the Marlins and Philly series, you might go
Yeah,
undefeated.
yeah. And like
Like
this team's
that's
already in
crazy.
first. Like they got the hard games out of the way early. So I'm high on the D-backs this year. I have been the entire time we've been recording this podcast. Might be a little biased, but I've been saying
Hometown team, yeah.
The D-backs are gonna be good.
I have a surprise at 9, and that's the Pirates. The Pittsburgh Pirates, surprise of the season. I mean, Brian Reynolds, like I said before, is projected to hit 74 home runs because he's just bashing it out of the park. They had a huge loss with O'Neal Cruz breaking his ankle on Monday or Sunday. He's going to be out probably until the All Star break, 2 to 3 months. But this team is great. I mean, this team is just behind the Cardinals in the NL Central. You know, they've had a really good start to the year, but scoring a lot more runs. That it's crazy. Their Tuesday home game that they played yesterday looked like it had more fans than the Marlins opening day did against the Mets. Like
Yeah,
this Pittsburgh rally aroused their team. I mean,
yeah,
they're loyal, of course, to the Steelers, but and Penguins, but they have a really good home face. I just want to
yeah.
shout out Pittsburgh.
I wanted to put him in my top 10, but with O'Neal Cruz breaking his ankle, they're like right outside of it, I think. But yeah, love to see
Yeah,
Kutch back in the black and yellow.
yeah.
Yeah, Pirates are on my honorable mention list as well. So
And at 10, I got the Yankees because again, you can't have a list without the Yankees in the top 10. Either Yankees or Red Sox are like obligatory have to be in it. Third best run differential in baseball. They've lost some close games. They play against Tampa for the first time in Tampa on Cinco de Mayo weekend, which is going to be amazing. I mean, you know that's going to be a sold out drop. It's probably going to collapse to the ground of all the shaking that
probably,
happens to the fans rooting.
and they'll
Hopefully it
have to
does.
build a new stadium.
Hopefully it does. But yeah, I got the Yankees at 10. I would say for me, like the Angels are just outside the top 10, right? But I agree with your list. I mean, it's early, so it's hard to like place these teams
Yeah,
100%.
like the Mets
But
or the Mets could be a top 5 team. They could be a bottom 5 team. Like I don't know. Yeah,
yeah. Um, and then I think that's it for baseball, unless
yeah.
you've got anything else you want to add.
No, I think that's it.
There's not too much news. We're a bit at it for a little bit, like over an hour, maybe 70 minutes. But the only major news we've really had is we had one trade and a signing and a player request to trade. So we'll start off with the move of the signing to where OBJ found a team in Baltimore. He found a team willing to pay him close to 20 million a year. Is he worth that money? I don't think so.
I don't think he is either.
But I would state why it's still worth it for them. And look at just the player towards ACL in the Super Bowl with the Rams, and they won. He spent all last year rehabbing, maybe signing with a team, ended up not because he wanted to get something more long term, even though he only signed a 1 year deal with Baltimore. But I think they did this move to have that star quality receiver, and they discussed it with Lamar Jackson. So I think this is their like phase of getting Lamar Jackson back on track to play for them and re-sign him to a deal. Because I mean, I think it's like they would only do this if they knew Lamar was going to come back. You know, they're not going to sign
Yeah,
OBJ for a rookie or Tyler Snoop Huntley, right, to start for them. So I think that's why they make this move. It's an overpay, but if that gives
that's
you Lamar
true.
Jackson back on the team, then it's worth it. Because without Lamar, this team is in shambles.
Yeah, I mean he's making top 20 money. It's in the range of like Tyler Lockett and Mike Evans money, maybe a little bit more than that. Um, I, I think it's an overpay, but if this is what Lamar wants to stay, then I think it's a good idea. I
Mm,
don't know how good the Ravens are. Like he's hasn't had an elite year in probably 5 or 6 years when he was with New York. I think he
yeah.
broke 1,000 once when he was in Cleveland, maybe once. It was like just at 1,000.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Like it's not moving the needle too much. Like he hasn't played in what, a year and a half, or maybe just a
Just
year,
1 year, because
just
it
one
was the
year.
Super
Yeah,
Bowl,
yeah.
yeah.
But still, taking a year off, getting paid top 20 money. Like I was looking at it. Michael Thomas makes like top 40 money. He's not even close, which is weird to me. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know how he didn't get paid, but it'll be interesting. I think, yeah, it's a weapon for Lamar. I don't know how much it's going to move the needle though.
I think it's just to get him on the team.
I think
Because, I
that's
mean,
literally all it is. It's just to keep
I think
Lamar
that's
Jackson
it.
happy.
Because, I mean, like, this team was a borderline playoff team without Lamar. And because he got hurt for the last couple of weeks of the season. But I mean, they haven't really lost much without him, right? They re-signed Kalomac, or not Kalomac. They re-signed Roquan Smith. You know, Mark Andrews still there, J.K. Dobbins. So they haven't really lost anything. It's now they just add on to it, and they hope it'll be enough to win the AFC North. Which again, catching up to Cincinnati is going to be a challenge. But
Yeah.
again, if you have Lamar, you have a shot. So I think that's all they need. We have a former top three pick from your Detroit Lions is on the move. The Lions, they've done really well recently. They've hit on a lot of good draft picks. Jeff Okuda was not one of them. He
No, he
he
was
did
not.
he did play pretty well this past season, but to be a top three pick, you're expecting him to be like Jalen Ramsey was when he got picked top five, and he hasn't been that. He hasn't even made a Pro Bowl. So he gets traded to Atlanta on the last year of his rookie deal. So Atlanta will pay him the last year. Then they have to figure out whether they want to re-sign him to a big money move. And they trade him for a fifth, which I think is an underpay. I think the Falcons should have given him like maybe a third or a fourth, I would say, or maybe like a fifth this year, and then like a fourth next year. I think would have been appropriate. But as a Lions fan, tell me how you feel about the move.
Yeah, I mean, like we've revamped this defense, bringing in Garner Johnson, bringing in Mosley, like, and I can't think of the name guy from
Sudden,
Pittsburgh, Sutton. Yeah. Um, so like the defense has already been revamped. Okuda's spot has already kind of been jeopardized, but like still at the same time, he was the number three pick a couple years ago. Between injuries and him just like getting toasted, it's fine. I'm fine seeing him go for a fifth round pick. It seemed like a bit, like you said, an underpay. I thought Detroit probably could have gotten a third or a fourth from someone. But at the same time, like the secondary is stacked now. Okuda was probably not going to get too much playing time. Like I'm cool with the move.
I think it's not only smart for them because of the signings they made, but for the future, it makes it so you don't have to pay him money that he probably doesn't deserve.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
like I think they want to keep their salary flexible in case. Again, I know you love Jared Goff and he's great, but like in case they want to get like that over the top signing in free agency, whether it's at quarterback or another position, it keeps them with the flexibility to do so. And they can maybe even flip that fifth and move up in the draft because you know they got a ton of draft picks. So imagine they trade up to get Will Anderson from their current spot at six. They use this fifth round as part of that deal. Then it'd be considered a home run, right?
Yeah, yeah. We'll see. I mean, and knowing how the Lions have drafted, they're doing really good in these late round picks. Like they got Malcolm Rodriguez, who looks to like he's going to be a star at linebacker in a few years. James
Yeah.
Houston, who had like 9 sacks last year, was an undrafted free agent. So Brad Holmes knows what he's doing late in the draft, and even with undrafted people. So I mean, a fifth you might think, yeah, but with the Lions, a fifth is probably like the equivalent of a third, the way that they've been drafting recently.
Yeah. And again, I'll be excited. We'll talk about the draft next week because it's next week, or it's in
Yeah,
2 weeks, should I
it's
say?
in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the draft's in 2 weeks. So we'll give our little predictions about it next week.
Yeah, give our mock draft of Anthony Richardson going number one overall.
Wouldn't surprise me. And then we had a former potential all pro linebacker that's kind of fallen off in recent years request a trade. That's Devin White from Tampa. He was a second year player when they won the draft, or when the draft, when they won the Super Bowl with Brady. And he's kind of taken a decline the last couple seasons because, again, that defense as a whole has been a little bit reduced. He's requesting a trade because he's not going to get paid that big money by Tampa. Where do you think he goes? He'll probably go to a team maybe like the Lions that has the money to offer him. Where else would you would say for Devin White? Because he's a decent player. Like when he was after his second season, people were saying he's going to be the next Ray Lewis or Brian Urlacher, but I don't know how that is now.
Yeah, I see the Patriots taking a swing at it just because you don't really ever see the Patriots down low. And they had a couple of bad years, but their defense has always been pretty solid. I think the Pats might take a swing at it. He seems like a good Bill Belichick kind of guy, someone that Bill's going to want on the team. And then I think the Lions aren't done yet with this defense like revamp. I think linebacker is probably still one of the weaker positions on the team. So I'm all for bringing Devin White in. I think it's
Hmm.
good. They have the money. They have the trade assets if they wanted to trade for him. I mean, shit, fifth round pick right there. Trade it for Devin White. He's gonna go for more than a
Yeah.
fifth, but add that in there, sure. Um, I think it's probably gonna be between those two teams if I had to guess.
I agree. I mean, he's a good player. Like the Dolphins don't have anything to give him nor the money to afford
No,
him, long term. But I think he'd be good for them. You could even see a team that needs youth give up the money now and then deal with the salary later. Like I could see the Rams swinging for Devin White because they don't have anybody, right?
yeah,
They don't have anybody at linebacker. They need youth on their team. They're not a young team. They're an old team. So I think they could swing for him. I would love to see him, if he does get traded, go to a team that's not in the NFC South. I mean, which they won't trade him anyways, but just don't send him to Buffalo and don't send him to the Jets. That's all I ask. Don't send him to a rival of the
yeah,
Dolphins,
please.
please. And then speaking of the Jets, we did have news break today, which I called forever ago, that the Jets and Packers haven't spoken recently as both teams are dug into the requests of what they want from this trade. They haven't spoken in about 3 weeks about Aaron Rodgers. They've had zero communication about him. I mean, the Jets don't want to give up a first. They think Rodgers is worth less than that, and the Packers want at least a first, if not multiple firsts, or a first and a good young player. Um, I don't think this deal gets done before the draft. And if it doesn't get done during the draft, I argue this deal may not happen. I argue this deal could collapse and the Packers are just going to be stuck paying Aaron Rodgers and having him be a nuisance. And for the Jets, I mean, if they don't get Aaron Rodgers this year, I mean, what do you do? What do you do if Zach Wilson's your starting quarterback and all this
You have to
support
trade
for
your starting
Rodgers?
quarterback. You have to go get like a Will Levis or Anthony Richardson if you don't want Rodgers. I think. But like
Because
the Packers have no leverage in this situation at all. Like I think he is worth a first round pick, but they don't really have the leverage because he's already made it clear he does not want to play for the Packers. I wouldn't be shocked if the Packers just decided to start Jordan Love anyway. So I don't think the Packers have too much leverage here. I think they're going to be the ones that eventually have to like just cut bait and take whatever they can get for him. I think he's worth the first, but you've got no leverage. You've pissed him off, and now he doesn't want to play for you anymore.
I would argue the opposite, honestly, because in my head, the Packers are going to be fine if he's on the bench. Like, he's going to be a drama queen and make a bunch of nuisance and drama and, like, not support his quarterback. But I think they'd rather have that than letting him go for less than value. Like,
Yeah, but
he's
that's the
on the
thing
team
is,
for 2 years, so he has multiple deals. It's like when the Saints and Sean Payton, they held on to Sean Payton after so many teams wanted to hire him last offseason because they didn't give up the picks for him. And they finally got what they thought was good compensation. So this could be a whole year-old deal with
yeah,
Aaron Rodgers.
but that's the thing is they've already stunted Jordan Love's growth sitting on the bench behind Rodgers for a couple of years. Do you want to keep stunting his growth with Rodgers on the team? I would argue no. I think they
Mm-hmm.
need to get rid of Rodgers as soon as they can because if Jordan Love's the quarterback and Rodgers is just being a drama queen, like that's going to hinder it even. It's going to be bad.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, we've been saying since probably episode 10, we'll see where it resolves, and it's led to nothing. So it's been
Absolutely.
2 months. It's been a month since his retreat, which we thought would give him the answer. Nothing's been happening. But I think that is it for this episode, unless there's anything else you want to add.
No, I can't think of anything else.
Well, I am grateful for now, of course, this podcast and recording it with you, but that the power didn't go out and we finally had electricity and we were able
Dang.
to keep it in. It's still pouring outside, but nothing's gone out since we started recording. So shout out Florida weather. We will catch you next week with some playoff reactions to both hockey and basketball. We'll get into the draft, our coverage before the draft, and see if the Rays can keep winning. I would say, unless there's anything else
Yeah,
you want to look forward to this
what are the
week,
odds the Rays are undefeated next episode?
I would say 2%. I think they're going to lose. It could be tonight. Like, I think they're going to lose.
Yeah, they're gonna. I'm almost guaranteeing they are not undefeated by the time we record next week. But
Yeah.
I don't know who they play. I think their next series is tough. I think their first four were easy, but then they have. I was looking at it. I think it's like a pretty solid team, so they're gonna lose a game.
Yeah. But until next time on the 31305 podcast, I'm Alex,
I'm Taylor.
and we will catch you in the next one.